The world choked. It was as if an unseen hand had gripped the planet, squeezing the very breath out of its lungs. The air, once taken for granted, had become a precious commodity, slipping through fingers like sand. A silent thief had stolen the air. The once bustling streets now lay eerily silent, shrouded in a thick, unnatural haze. The fog was not just a visual barrier, but a harbinger of doom, signaling the absence of life-sustaining oxygen. Birds plummeted from the sky, their wings beating in a desperate, futile dance. The skies, once filled with the joyous chirping of birds, now echoed with the sound of their bodies hitting the ground. It was a symphony of despair, a testament to the invisible menace that had taken hold. Cars swerved, engines sputtering and dying. The roads, once arteries of movement and life, had become graveyards of metal and rubber. Drivers, caught off guard, struggled to control their vehicles as the life-giving air was snatched away. On the streets, people gasped, clutching their throats, their faces contorting in silent screams. The panic was palpable, a wave of fear that spread faster than the lack of oxygen. Each breath was a battle, a fight for survival in a world that had turned hostile. Chaos erupted. Emergency sirens wailed, their cries swallowed by the growing panic. Fire trucks and ambulances raced through the streets, their lights flashing in a desperate attempt to restore order. But the enemy was unseen, and the battle seemed hopeless. Hospitals overflowed, their corridors echoing with the rasping breaths of the dying. Medical staff, overwhelmed and underprepared, worked tirelessly to save lives. But the sheer number of victims was staggering, and the resources were quickly depleting. The lucky ones blacked out quickly, their bodies starved of the life-giving gas. They fell where they stood, their minds shutting down to escape the agony. For them, the end was mercifully swift. Others lingered, their chests heaving in a terrifying mime of respiration. Each gasp was a reminder of the air that was no longer there, a cruel joke played by an indifferent universe. Their eyes, wide with fear, searched for answers that would never come. It was a global pandemic, but the enemy was invisible, odorless, tasteless. The masks people wore were a futile attempt to filter out the nothingness that had invaded their world. They looked to the sky, hoping for a miracle, but finding only emptiness. The lifeblood of the planet, ripped away in a single terrifying instant. The cities, once vibrant and full of life, now stood as silent monuments to a world that had lost its breath. The silence was deafening, a stark contrast to the chaos that had preceded it. No one knew why. No one knew how. The questions hung in the air, as suffocating as the lack of oxygen. The world had changed in an instant, and humanity was left gasping for answers, just as it gasped for air. Days bled into weeks. The planet, starved of oxygen, began to die. Plants withered, their vibrant greens fading to sickly yellows and browns. Forests, once teeming with life, stood silent, their skeletal branches reaching towards a sky that offered no salvation. Animals fared no better. Pets perished in their owners' arms, their whimpers a heartbreaking counterpoint to the growing silence. Wildlife, caught in the suffocating grip of the oxygen-deprived world, succumbed. The lucky ones died quickly, others lingered, their bodies betraying their slow, agonizing demise. Humanity retreated underground. Bunkers, once symbols of paranoia and fear, became sanctuaries, but hope, like the air itself, was a finite resource.
Deep beneath the Earth's crust, in a forgotten government facility, a beacon of hope flickered. This was no ordinary lab. It was a sanctuary for the world's brightest minds, a last-ditch effort to save humanity from the brink of extinction.
Dr. Maria Rodriguez, a brilliant but unorthodox scientist, rallied her team. Her methods were unconventional, but her results were undeniable. She had a knack for seeing solutions where others saw only problems. They were a motley crew. Geneticists, engineers, botanists, united by their desperation and a shared will to survive. Each member brought a unique skill set to the table, creating a synergy that was their greatest strength.
There was Daniel, the stoic engineer, his hands calloused but steady, capable of coaxing life into dying machines. His expertise in mechanical systems was crucial, as the facility's aging infrastructure often threatened to fail.
And Maya, the young botanist, her eyes reflecting the dying light of the world above, yet still holding on to a fragile hope. She was determined to find a way to grow plants in the most inhospitable conditions, believing that nature held the key to their survival.
They toiled tirelessly, their lab illuminated by the cold, sterile glow of artificial light. The hum of machines was a constant reminder of their isolation, but also of their mission. They were the last line of defense against a world that had turned hostile. Time was their enemy, but ignorance was a foe they vowed to defeat. Every second counted, and every experiment brought them one step closer to understanding the catastrophe that had befallen the Earth. They had to find out what had happened. The air was growing thinner, and the planet's oxygen levels were plummeting. The cause was a mystery, but the consequences were all too real, and they had to find a way to reverse it. Failure was not an option. The fate of humanity rested on their shoulders, and they were determined to succeed, no matter the cost. Their journey was fraught with challenges, but their resolve was unbreakable. They were the Oxygen Crusaders, and they would not rest until they had restored balance to the world. The challenges were relentless. Food and water were dwindling. The air scrubbers, their mechanical lungs, struggled to keep pace with the ever-increasing demands. But the most insidious threat came from within. Fear and despair gnawed at the edges of their sanity. The weight of the dying world pressed down on them, heavy and suffocating. They had families, friends, lost to the catastrophe. Each breath was a reminder of what they had lost and what they were fighting to reclaim.
There were arguments, accusations, moments when hope threatened to extinguish entirely. But always Dr. Rodriguez was there, her voice a steady drumbeat in the suffocating silence, reminding them of their purpose. Their research yielded a terrifying truth. The oxygen hadn't been displaced, hadn't been replaced, it had simply vanished.
It was as if the planet had suddenly forgotten how to breathe. The data was conclusive, undeniable, but it defied explanation.
Natural phenomena left traces, fingerprints on the fabric of reality. This was different, clean, calculated.
Their enemy wasn't a natural disaster. It was something else, something far more sinister. Someone or something had orchestrated this global extinction event. Whispers began to circulate, whispers of a shadowy figure known only as the architect, a legend whispered in hushed tones, a being of immense intelligence and chillingly inhuman ambition. Some dismissed it as paranoia, the ramblings of minds stretched thin by fear and isolation. But Dr. Rodriguez knew better. There was a cold, calculating precision to the disaster that whispered of an intelligence beyond human comprehension.
The architect was real, and he was just getting started.
Amidst the despair, a glimmer of hope emerged. Maya, the botanist, stumbled upon a curious anomaly. A rare species of algae, long thought to be extinct, was thriving in the lab's hydroponics bay. It defied all logic. The algae, unlike any other plant they had encountered, didn't just survive without oxygen. It seemed to generate it. It was a faint flicker, a single candle in the overwhelming darkness, but it was enough.
But doubts lingered. Was this a natural phenomenon? A random mutation? Or was it a calculated act, a breadcrumb left by the architect, a cruel trick designed to offer hope where there was none?
At time, their most relentless enemy was running out. The sun dipped below the horizon, marking the end of another day, a day they couldn't afford to lose. Every tick of the clock echoed their desperation, a constant reminder of the stakes at hand. Resources dwindled, tensions flared, and the air grew heavy with the stench of their fear. The lab, once a place of discovery and hope, now felt like a pressure cooker ready to explode. Arguments broke out over the smallest details, each scientist feeling the weight of their impending doom. But Dr. Rodriguez refused to give up. Her determination was a beacon in the darkness, guiding her team through the chaos. She led by example, working tirelessly alongside her colleagues, her resolve unshaken by the mounting challenges. She pushed her team harder, their every waking moment dedicated to understanding the algae, to unlocking its secrets. They knew that within these microscopic organisms lay the key to their survival, a solution that seemed just out of reach. They worked day and night, their eyes bloodshot, their bodies aching from the relentless pace. The lab lights never dimmed, a testament to their unwavering commitment. Each experiment, each test brought them one step closer to the answer they so desperately sought. Their bodies fueled by caffeine and sheer willpower, they pushed through the exhaustion. Coffee cups littered the lab benches, a silent witness to their sleepless nights. The fatigue was palpable, but so was their determination. The fate of humanity rested on their shoulders, the weight of billions of lives, a crushing burden. Every decision, every action carried the hopes and fears of an entire species. The pressure was immense, but they knew they couldn't falter. The weight of billions of lives, a crushing burden. They felt the enormity of their task, the responsibility that came with it. It was a burden that could break lesser individuals, but they stood firm, driven by a purpose greater than themselves.
We can't afford to stop now. Every second counts. The clock is ticking, and we must keep moving forward. Our work is far from over, and the stakes have never been higher.
We're close. I can feel it. The breakthrough is within our grasp. We just need to hold on a little longer, to push a little harder. Hope is on the horizon and we must seize it. We just need a little more time. Time to finish what we've started, to see our efforts come to fruition. The urgency is palpable, but so is our resolve. We won't let this slip through our fingers.
We have to keep going for everyone's sake. The world is counting on us and we can't let them down. Our mission is clear and our path is set. We will persevere, no matter the cost.
Finally, a breakthrough. They managed to isolate the enzyme responsible for the algae's oxygen-generating properties. It was a fragile, delicate process, fraught with risks, but they had no other choice. They had to weaponize hope.